We are all busy people, especially in the morning, but having small meal prep would change your breakfast routine. In today's case, this nori seaweed paste I grew up with. I know it looks pretty peculiar for those who are not familiar with seaweed, but trust me, it's packed with umami taste minus having a strong seaweedy smell. I enjoy it with the rice or smother on toast and sometimes even make a pasta sauce. I'm gonna show you how to make avocado tofu rice bowl together with the soup using nori paste. Both come out in less than 10 minutes and happen to be plant-based. We are starting by making nori seaweed paste. To the pot, add water, followed by 1.5 tablespoons of sake, also known as rice wine, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of comstock powder, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. Now let's talk about the nori seaweed. I'm using unsalted one. If you have any stale nori seaweed which has been sitting in the pantry for a long time, this is the best way to utilize it. Bring the pot to the stove and cook it on high. Once it comes to a boil, reduce it to simmer. It's time to add our nori seaweed. Tear it into small pieces, and smaller the better in this case. This is pretty satisfying. I should have made it into smaller pieces so that it will become paste faster as you cook it. Cook it for 10 to 15 minutes on low. On the halfway through, you're gonna see the liquid will reduce down to half. From this point, make sure to mix it continuously, prevent it from burning. If you see the liquid dry up before the nori seaweed becomes paste-like consistency, add a splash of water until it becomes smooth and paste. At this point, off the heat and transfer to the container immediately, otherwise the nori seaweed will start to stick at the bottom and make it hard to scrape off. The nori seaweed is smooth, glossy, shiny, and just perfect. Again, this tastes 100 times better than how it looks. It's basically a flavor booster for any dish. It's meant to be savory and a bit salty since we only enjoy a small portion each time. This will last 2 weeks in the fridge. Now it's time to work on our breakfast.
何？水筒にお水入れるよ。
It's avocado tofu nori paste rice bowl. First, we're gonna chop spring onions. If you follow me for a while, you guys know this is part of my weekend routine. I chop a bunch and add to almost every dish throughout the week. By the way, this Japanese knife I love is now on 10% off until mid-November. There's no doubt having a sharp knife changed my cooking life. So please take advantage if you consider getting a good quality knife. The link is in the description box below. My only struggle is I always make a huge mess whenever I cut spring onions. Any tips, suggestions, or resonations maybe? Thinly sliced chisel leaves. You can use any type of fresh herbs you have on hand. Coriander and Italian parsley would be good. To the small bowl, scoop about 1 tablespoon of nori seaweed. You can always add more later if it's needed. Add wasabi paste. I added 1 teaspoon and it was already pungent enough. Then add your choice of oil to thin it out. Mine is egoma oil, which is high in omega-3 fat. Combine them together. I have a firm tofu. 開かない。待って。いくよ。ああ。It's better to drain the water before taking it out. I was too lazy to go to the sink. We have this Japanese proverb, 急がば回れ, meaning haste makes waste. Do you guys have any proverbs like this in your country? Let me know in the comment section. It's always fun to learn something new from you guys. Cut tofu into small cubes. You can use extra firm tofu, but I don't recommend using silken tofu since it gets too loose. Add into the mixture. For avocado, peel the skin and cut into about the same size as tofu. Mix them to combine. Sprinkle some toasted sesame seeds. It's best when every component is just combined since the moisture of tofu starts to come out and water down as time passes. But if you want to make ahead of time, just keep all the components separate. The nori paste wasabi mixture will last at least 3 days in the fridge. The next one is even easier. In fact, it takes 5 minutes with no heat. It sounds good, right? We begin by boiling the water. In the meantime, we're just gonna assemble everything in one bowl. To the bowl, add broccoli, which is blanched. I tend to have a broccoli on stock just because my kids like it, but as always, feel free to use any vegetable you fancy. Scoop about 1 tablespoon of nori seaweed paste, half teaspoon of comstock powder or vegetable stock powder if you prefer. Now we're just gonna pour the boiling hot water. Speaking of vegetable, we don't cook them, so I don't recommend anything which needs to be cooked, such as sweet potatoes. It's time to set up the table. I always keep some kind of pickles. This mustard spinach pickle will be perfect for the accompaniment. I already introduced in the previous video, but let me quickly show you how to make one. After washing the mustard spinach, sprinkle some salt and massage it until the liquid starts to come out. Let it sit for 30 minutes by putting something heavy on top of it, then squeeze the moisture out. Season with the kombucha powder and then chili flakes. Rub them to combine. Let it sit in the fridge for 2 hours. It's crunchy and refreshing. Breakdown recipe will be linked in the description box below. And back to the rice bowl. I just reheated the rice in the freezer. I always make a big batch and then divide it into the single portions and store it into the freezer. There are multiple small meal preps I do weekly to keep myself on track. Add avocado nori mixture on top and finally garnish with some shiso leaves. Back to the soup, just pour in the boiling hot water, then mix. Have a taste as you go. Feel free to top up more until you reach your desired taste. I added about 1 cup of hot water, finishing with chopped spring onion and ready to be enjoyed. Believe it or not, this nori seaweed paste is one of my kids' favorites. They are not in the mood of showing their positive reaction today, but they usually devour everything. Oishii! This recipe is something my great-grandma was eating back then, so I'm happy to share it with you today. Thanks a lot for being here with me. I appreciate it. Again, the full breakdown recipe is always on my blog. Tag me on Instagram at Miwa Japanese Cooking Class if you make one. またね、バイバイ。